Hi, I'm Paul Austin-Manier, and this is Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. Jen, do I ever have a job ad for you? And this one is very on point because, like, we're in the midst of soccer hooligan mania, right? Like, that whole thing is about to be a thing. So, for the folks at home, this week we are tackling a job that's as temporary as the glory of a last-minute goal. Meet the senior security manager for a non-profit organizing a global football tournament, because nothing says sustainable impact like a 6-month contract and a paycheck that disappears faster than a striker's celebration. You're going to guard team hotels, training sites, and support facilities, whatever those are. And you've got to do it with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker, but don't expect the job to last longer than the tourney cycle. So, is this security work, or is it just a high-stakes game of musical chairs? Let's roast it.
I'm ready for it. That sounds really interesting, very timely. Interesting to me because I live on the west coast of Canada. And so for some reason, this anonymous company job posting is very much resonating with me right now. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, and in the upcoming global football tournament that happens once every 4 years, which we aren't going to name because apparently they are very, very sassy about people using their brand without permission. There are 7 games that are happening in Vancouver and 6 games that are happening in Toronto, and then a whole bunch in the US and a whole bunch in Mexico. Do we care about that? I sure don't, but that's just me. Let's get into the job ad. This is really short. This might actually be one of the shortest episodes that we ever record because the job ad is so stinking short. So I'm going to read the whole thing instead of taking kind of pauses and, having call-outs and what. I'm just going to read the job ad verbatim because it's literally a half a page. And I think that what that tells us is we're going to have more to say about what's missing than what's actually in the job ad, which does happen.
Interesting. Yeah, that's usually what happens. The shorter the job ad, the more opinions we have on it. So let's get into it. Looking forward to it. I've got my notebook, my pen, ready to go.
All right. So this is for a senior security manager job. That is the role title. We're starting off with the roasty profile here, per the usual. The report to title for this job, don't know. It's unknown. Company size, well, roughly 1.5 gajillion, but only every 4 years. Industry, sporting events, specifically championship tournaments. What do? Well, they organize global level championship tournaments for football, which for the folks in North America, soccer.
Soccer.
Head office location for this organization is in Zurich, Switzerland. The job location is in Boston, United States, or Greater Boston. It's a little bit outside of Boston, actually, where they're hosting these games. Geographical operating area for the company is global. They do this thing everywhere. They've been doing tournaments for 100 years, give or take. Job type, full-time, temporary contract, unfolding over the spring and summer of 2026. So that is the roasty profile. And for the folks who are at home or joining us in the live studio on Substack, Jen doesn't see the job post ahead of time, so this is really her reacting in real time. We're going to put a link in the show notes to the landing page that has a full copy of the job description. So if you're listening to the episode and you want to kind of get into it, follow along a little bit, the link's going to be in the show notes there, so you can check that out. Now, starting off with the job description. The senior security manager, non-competition venues, will support the planning, coordination, and operational management of public safety security across all event non-competition sites, including team base camps, team hotels, venue-specific training sites, and support facilities. The role demands project management capability, risk-based planning discipline, and operational leadership to develop and execute intelligence-led security programs that protect teams, staff, and infrastructure across geographically dispersed locations throughout the tournament life cycle. The next section is position requirements. Bullet points, as always. Bachelor's degree in security management, public safety, criminal justice, emergency management, or related field. 10 plus years of leadership and operational management experience in security, public safety, or emergency management. And experience within a multi-day, multi-venue, major event environment. The next section is, and last section really, is about the company. So the company is the host city organizing committee leading the event planning, coordination, and tournament delivery for the matches of the event awarded to Boston. We aim to create and deliver memorable and safe experiences that promote the region. We're a nonprofit organization committed to creating sustainable and positive economic and social impact for all communities. And that is the job ad in its entirety.
That's it. Wow.
The entire damn thing, start to finish.
So I agree with you. That is likely the shortest job posting we've ever roasted. And your
100%.
prediction was right. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot to say about this. And where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with this?
Let's yeah, I mean, with a job ad that is this light on detail, it's a tough question to answer. Where do you even want to start getting into this? Let's start with what we know. So we know that they're looking for someone who has a bachelor's degree in security management, public safety, criminal justice, emergency management, blah, 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 blah. We know that they're looking for someone with 10 or more years of leadership and operational management experience in this industry. That seems to be, to me anyway, a filtering point. That's going to kind of like weed out a lot of people and really kind of set the base for who is going to fulfill kind of those requirements for this. And to me, like this is kind of a public safety professional, like maybe a retired cop or a retired firefighter or security officer, peace officer of some sort, something like that. So let's start with what we know. Like, what do you think about that particular combination of things?
Yeah, and it doesn't say, if I recall correctly, it doesn't mention anything about or equivalent, like, experience. They're saying that they need someone who has a degree in one of these things. There's kind of no wiggle room. So yeah, that's who they're looking for. I think you described it perfectly, maybe a retired cop. My question though is why not go RFP for this? Like, why aren't they requesting proposals from security companies who probably have full team that they could pick someone out? And, like it's just really weird to me. Does it say how long this temporary, it says full-time temporary contract position. Does it say how long?
It doesn't say explicitly how long it is. I would imagine that the job will start, if I had to guess, I would imagine it'll start 2 to 3 weeks before the tournament. And then it'll conclude, like a week or two after the tournament, or after the portion of games being played in Boston, in the Boston area. Because I don't think that the way the tournament is organized, you have games in every city for the entire time. It's kind of like groups play in a certain city, and there's maybe 3 weeks or something, and then you're done. So it doesn't say. That, though, if I'm right, would suggest that this is about a 3-week gig.
So this is what's interesting to me. There are going to be lots of non-competition sites, like you mentioned, what that might look like. So it's not going to be where people are playing, like where the tournaments are actually taking place. It's going to be all of the like other spaces where people are going to be gathering. So it's interesting to me that they would hire this person again independently, whereas they could hire someone with a team who already has their own pattern language, their own ability to collaborate and work together. Because then what? This person is going to need a team regardless. So this person comes in and does this company have their own team? Is this person then going to be charged with making all of these hires? Are they all contractors? Like, why not just go and have a contract with an existing company that already has all of these things in place. Like, it's really, really interesting to me. I don't quite understand the process. I would 100% go out and look for a company that already exists and get a temporary contract with them. They've already got everything in place. This is building it from scratch. It's high security. It's a lot of logistics. They talked about multiple sites. And so again, like I said, you're going to have to be able to have that language. You're going to have to be able to look at someone and have them know what it is that you want them to do. And to do that in such a short period of time from scratch is so bizarre to me. I mean, and again, I'm no sport expert and I'm no security expert. Maybe there's a reason for this, but it feels like they're going about it the more challenging way. I feel like there's an easier way to do this, because the other issue I see with this job posting is that it has such few information, such little information. They're either going to get a slew of people applying who will have more questions than they can provide, like their demonstrative value, or they might not have very many people because there's such a lack of information, and because it's a temporary opportunity that some people might be like, well, but there's not enough information. It's just not worth my time and effort to apply, because as anyone in the job market, especially current job market, knows, it is such a pain in the ass to be applying for jobs right now. It's exhausting. And so it feels like if the company isn't putting out much effort, then why would you be putting out more effort than what they're putting out? So I don't know. Yeah, it's
and to kind of add to what you're talking about there, like very, very good points. This is specifically for non-competition venues. So it's not the stadium. It's not the stadium, which suggests to me that there are already security arrangements in place, and there's already a system or a contract or something that's been put in place for the venue, for the tournament matches. Why not expand that to include the non-tournament, the non-competition venues as well? Like, what's the reason structurally for that? Because like you say, it's very strange to say, hey, guess what? You're going to come in and work for 3 weeks, and maybe you've got to hire people, and maybe you've got to figure all this stuff out, and They did kind of paint the picture of, you need to be an emergency preparedness, public security, public safety kind of professional. So you've probably got some of the background knowledge that you need to do this, but very scant on details. Makes me wonder if the organizing committee doesn't know what they need, right? Maybe they're fishing.
Yeah, and this seems like a really high risk position to be fishing with, right? Like, this is happening really soon. Summer is happening very, very soon. And I would also, going back to the venues themselves, a lot of venues already have their own security teams, and I think from there they contract out. So yeah, I absolutely, maybe this person is coordinating. If some of these events are at a hotel, maybe they're coordinating with hotel security already, and they just need one person to kind of wrap their arms around it. But they could provide those details in the job posting. Like, this is one of the most vague job postings I have ever read, and there is no salary, huh?
So they did list a salary.
I
wasn't sure if you wanted to get into guessing the salary, because there's so little information in here, but they did list a pay range. Now, it's a pay range per diem. So it's not a flat contract. It's just like, per diem, this is what you get. But take a stab at it. What do you think this is worth per day?
Per day, and it doesn't mention any hours, and it's security. So that very well could be like some big heavy,
5 a.m. until 4 a.m.
I would imagine, and again, maybe this person is the one tasked with making sure that that's not actually the case, right? Like, hiring the people. I get, there's no information here. There's no information about like what kind of autonomy or authority they have, anything like that. So this is where I go back to, when you're the hiring manager for a role like this, you're doing yourself such a disservice. You're going to spend half of the interview, like, you're going to get your applicants, you're going to screen your resumes, be like, cool, these people, we want to talk to them a little bit more. And then you're going to spend half the interview talking. Instead of having a dialogue with a person, you're going to waste more than half the time explaining the situation, because they're going to have tons of questions. So why not use that time more wisely? Why not write a better job description that answers all of those questions, and then you can get into selecting the right candidate? Like, it's just such a time waste.
And to add to that, there's nothing in here about the interview process.
Yeah.
Which for jobs in the private sector, yeah, that's not really talked about a lot in job ads. But this is a committee that's hiring this person. So everything that you would go into applying for a job like this, thinking that like, oh, I'm going to have an interview with a screener or a recruiter. I'm going to have an interview with a hiring manager. Maybe I'll have an interview with like a team or something. It's pretty normal in the private sector. But with something like this, no clue. No clue.
Yeah.
Like, is there a structured process? Is this something where maybe there actually is like an RFP, but for an individual person? Maybe there's like a tender kind of process to hire this person. Who knows? They don't say any of those details.
You know what else they don't say? I know we're totally skipping past the salary, mostly because I hate that part. It's my least favorite part, but also because I was just reading this like HR law newsletter that I get, Canadian newsletter, and it talks about current cases, things like that. And this is something, and this is in the US, and we're in Canada, so it's a little bit different. But what I was reading was that an employee was able to successfully sue their employer because in the job description, it says must be able to lift, 20 pounds. And some of the things that the employee ended up lifting were 30 pounds. I'm not making this up. This is in the thing. 10-pound difference. The employee hurt themselves and then went back and sued the company because they were saying, you said I would only be lifting 20 pounds. Some of the things I was lifting were 30 pounds. I hurt my back. This is not what I agreed to. And so you have to be really careful. This is why we take this so seriously. This is why Paul and I go into so much detail about job postings, because not only are you trying to successfully hire someone or you're trying to get hired, but there are legal ramifications when it comes to job postings, and you have to be really, really careful. This is a contract role, so some of the things might not apply, but sometimes you have to do an accommodation statement. Sometimes you have to talk about whether or not or how AI is going to be used in the process. Sometimes you have to list pay. And certainly if it's a physical job, you need to be listing what those physical requirements are. It also doesn't mention anything about having your own vehicle or having a driver's license or a criminal record check. Like, for the love of God, this is a security role. They talk about, I would imagine if they have this background, then they should have a clean record, but it's not saying that it's asking for one. So there's a lot of things that are setting off like red flags for me about just, lack of compliance and legal risks for a role like this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's what's you kind of jogged my mind a little bit on this when you said we're not talking about access to a vehicle. So a couple of things that come to mind for me. Where the stadium actually is for Boston for this tournament is like it's kind of in suburban Boston. Public transit there, like, it's not actually the city of Boston. It's a township that's like separate. I think it's something like 15 miles from Boston proper. Public transit, probably not really a thing because it's a smaller area. And you're going to have to be able to get yourself around, presumably in a vehicle. Is it their vehicle? Is it your vehicle? Is it a loaner? Is it a rental? And it also doesn't say anything about supervision of a team. Like, I would assume, and this is just me assuming, but I would assume that if you're a senior security manager for all of these non-competition venues, of which it sounds like there are at least 5 or 6, maybe there's more, that you're going to have a team that you're going to need to supervise, unless there is a supervisor under you that is reporting to you. Like, these details, not clear in the job ad, right? So you really don't know what the character of this is like at this point. And you can make the argument that like, oh, well, it's this global football tournament, and I'm going to apply because it would be a once in a lifetime opportunity to work at this. And wow, that would look great on my resume if I need that. So let's go and I'll just figure the rest out. You can make that argument. I would probably be like that if I was qualified and if I lived in that area. But you are going into this very, very blind. You do not know what is up because the job ad hasn't said anything about it.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's like you said, you're going in blind. They're going to spend a lot of time in the interview just trying to figure all that out. But you've also made me think of something, how it would be interesting for someone who maybe isn't retired but active in the force. I don't know how it works, but police officer, whatever, security person, to take vacation time, to get their paid vacation while they go and do this gig and then go back to work. Because I would imagine that the pay is quite generous. I'm trying to read your face to see if you're going to give anything away.
Do you want to take a flyer? Do you want to just like pull a number out of thin air and throw it at me?
Okay, per day. I mean, this is the part I get so embarrassed about this. I can't even fathom. I'm Canadian. I don't know US dollars. I don't know. Oh, we've got, okay, yeah. So this is $700 to $800 per day. I was thinking like $1,000 a day, but I don't know. USD, $1,000 a day.
So the number that they list, the range is USD $700 to $800 per day.
No.
So it looks like someone in the Substack live chat and the live audience guessed that. Good for you, Dino. I don't know if you had like advanced knowledge of that, if you'd seen the job ad before, but 700 to 800 is on the money. So
Dino needs to be a guest podcast judge. Please join us, because I am so I've been doing how many episodes of this and I've gotten it right like once. So very hilarious.
Very resourceful. Yeah.
Hilarious.
So $700 to $800 a day. If you annualize that, that's just shy of $300,000. So it's well paid. It's well paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is it would be worth it to, if you're actively working, to try to like take your vacation time and just earn some extra cash money during this global football tournament championship.
And I can absolutely see someone who works for Boston Police Department kind of saying like, hey, I have been on the force for 20 years. I've got 6 months worth of vacation time banked that I haven't taken for whatever reason. Like, yeah, let's take 3 weeks off and make some money and go to like this global football tourney, hang out in Boston and do that whole thing. And yeah, it's going to be a good payroll year for me because of this. 100%. I could see that. I would almost wonder if that's kind of like all that they're going to be able to get given the requirements. Like, how else are you going to get someone with 10 years of leadership and operational management experience in public safety, public preparedness for just 3 weeks? Right?
True. That's absolutely true. The other thing too, this being a contract role, there's something that would have to be discussed during the interview process about insurance. Liability insurance specifically for this, and how that's covered and who's paying. I mean, usually it's a contract. If you're a contractor, you have your own insurance, but that's something that definitely needs to come into play into this conversation, because it's a big job. It's a very big job.
Oh, 100%. What also has to be factored into is that the global body that organizes these tournaments is separate from the local organizing committees this time around. So the people who are working at the portion of the tournament that's in Boston, they're employed by this nonprofit committee in Boston, right? So that's very different from saying that you're going to be employed by this global organization that's been doing this for 100 years, that knows their stuff, and has all these details nailed down. There's nothing really saying that the local committee in Boston or in Toronto or in Vancouver or in any of the cities will be as buttoned down and as used to this. This is the first time this tournament's come to North America, right? So there's going to be, I think, a lot of gaps, a lot of stuff that comes up that was just unanticipated based on it being the first time we've ever done it here. You know, sure, there are other tournaments that are sporting and
Yeah.
big and whatnot, and that experience absolutely crosses over. But this is a pretty unique thing that's happening. And by the time this episode goes live, I
Yeah.
think that we'll actually be at the end of the first week of play.
Again, being West Coast Canada, I remember in Vancouver when there was the Canucks like lost Stanley Cup playoffs or something like that. And I mean,
Yeah.
riots, cars on fire, like just absolute chaos and terror. And so who knows when, and that was just like West Coast chill Canadians. That was their reaction. And I've also been to like Premier League football games in the UK, and
They're a different breed.
it is completely different. So that's the other thing. You're going to have a lot of people coming from all over the world who have different cultures, and they show up in different ways when they celebrate, when they're, you know, having a good time, when they're upset about things. It's true. Like it's going to be a very challenging, a very challenging thing to undertake this role. So I think I do agree with Dino here where, maybe the pay isn't that great for what it is that this person is going to be expected to do. Don't know. Good luck to this individual, but I wouldn't I wouldn't take that gig.
I would certainly hope that there is some sort of liability limiting clause in the contract, like you were talking about, because this person, like, they are going to be hired as a contractor. They're not going to be hired as like an employee of this organization. So the rights and the protections that you could normally look to as being an employee of an organization, they're not necessarily going to exist. And you know, the point that that was brought up, $300K, I think it's good money. But is it worth it if something goes really, really bad, like there's a riot or there's, God forbid, something happens with a terrorist kind of event or activity, and all of a sudden you, the person who are at the top of all that, is kind of like blamed for all of that? Maybe it's not worth the money. But I would say for anybody who's like looking at this job seriously, if you are listening and you've seen this job ad and you're like, I'm going to apply for that, read the fine print for sure, and make sure that there's stuff in there about insurance and liability limitations, et cetera, because you don't want the outcome of a bad stuff to kind of hang around your neck. That would suck.
Absolutely. And it is like, and it's a contract position too. So think about taxes as well. You're still going to have to pay your taxes. And so are you actually getting enough? So, really, really interesting. That was the shortest
super
one.
short. If you're, and on that kind of contractor part too, right? Like if you're contracted as an independent entity rather than an employee contractor, your taxes aren't going to be deducted. So you're going to have to kind of hang on to some cash to pay whatever your obligations are, and you're going to have to file those like separately and whatever, like the amount of money that's involved, or an accountant to do it for you, for sure. But you've got to kind of factor that in. You know, if 20% of this goes away to income taxes and other obligations, it looks a little less attractive right there, right?
Yeah. There's also a good point too in the live chat about, like, you would imagine that the security protocols and crisis management planning is already set up. Great point. You would imagine so, but it's not explicitly stated here. And so it leaves so many questions. I should hope so. I would hope that they have like a subcommittee for this and for that, like all of that stuff. I would imagine too is already set up, but it's just so vague. There's just not enough information. So I always, based on my experience, assume, like, I would err on the side of no. It's not, because I've just seen things not exactly like this, but see things play out in a way that you're just like, why am I surprised that I'm surprised that none of this has been done? And the tips we always give to the hiring managers, the job posters, is give as much information as possible. Like if you're not saying something, we're going to assume it's because there's a reason why. And if there is something explicitly stated, there's a reason for that too, right? Like if a job posting says something like, must be good with, I don't know, fast-paced, dynamic workplace, it's because it's fast-paced and things are changing all the time and you're going to be run off your ass. So yeah, it's just as important what's not stated as what is stated, but that would be a good question to ask in the interview, like to come in and
Yep.
say, so I imagine that this is all set up and ready to go. And you know, I would go into the job interview just saying, here's what I think you're looking for, and then kind of let them answer all of the questions, because I think that yeah, I'm never not surprised about how little companies have planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that on that note too, like you would assume with a tournament this large, this big in scope and scale, and having run for so many iterations, like a century, give or take, you would assume that they have a support team that kind of comes in and joins the local organizing team and says, like, here, we'll help you figure out how to do this. Like, these are the best practices. This is the knowledge transfer that we're going to kind of impart on you. This is how it has worked in other host cities. You would assume that that is what's going to go on, but you don't know that from the job ad. Like it's a piece of missing information. So this job ad, and you know, this is the purpose of the show, right? Like we're here to critique job ads and pick them apart. So we have to look at what's like specifically in the job ad. That's a detail that could have made it into this job ad, and would have like drastically improved the context that someone who's thinking about applying for this kind of has for it, right? Why don't we go into, I feel like this will probably also be the shortest intermission.
I don't think we need it. Do we need an intermission? I don't think we need an intermission. I feel like I have all the information required before, like in order to give ratings. But I also want to say that it would be, there's no mention anywhere whether or not this individual gets free tickets to any of the matches, huh?
It doesn't say anything like that. And I'd be pretty surprised if they did, to be honest. Like they're going to be busy. Picture, yeah, the picture that surfaces from what we see in the job ad and kind of filling in the gaps with what we've heard about the tournament and what we know about large scale sporting tournaments and venues and everything, kind of in our experience here in North America, is that this person is going to be working very, very long days. It's probably going to be 7 days a week, and they're likely not going to have time to attend any of the matches as a spectator. Now, you know, a couple of tickets to give away to like your friends or family or whatever, that'd be an awesome perk. But wasn't mentioned.
Yeah. Okay, well, should we go into the rating then?
Sure. Yeah. If you don't want to take an intermission and read through the job ad kind of verbatim before rendering your verdict, we can absolutely go into the scoring and, you know, half a page. Like, maybe we don't need to reread it. Thinking about the job ad, how it was written, the structure, does it make sense, et cetera, et cetera. What would you rate this out of 10?
I think that it wasn't too bad, right? Like, yes, there's a lack of information. I've seen job postings with more information that are a crappier job posting, for lack of better terms. So I would say that, you know, it does list a salary. It does have some pertinent information, not all of it. It's got its requirements and all of that stuff. So I don't know. I am still, there are a couple things that I'm not feeling, which would be more about the job design itself. So I would say it's a 5. I would give this one a 5. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking that this for me is a 5 because you're right. What's written is clear. It's short. It's concise. It's to the point. And it doesn't put in a lot of fluff that it doesn't need to. It does assume
that there is a lot of contextual information that you would just have by having heard of this global tournament before, or having worked in the industry. So it's good that it doesn't bring in any fluff, and it kind of rests on that context that a professional working in this industry would kind of already know stuff, but still a ton of stuff missing. I would have liked to see stuff about the interview process. I would have liked to see stuff about the hiring timeline. Now, I found this job ad in March-ish. So I've been sitting on it for a little while. But it would have been really useful to say, like, hey, the first game is X date in Boston. You're going to start however long before that. We're going to make a hiring decision however long before that. There's going to be training and knowledge transfer, this and 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 this. I think that stuff was pretty important, and it was missing, especially if people are going to be like, the person who gets this job is going to be taking vacation time. You kind of need to know those timelines ahead of time so you can figure out, like, oh, can I actually do this or not? It was missing a lot of stuff. So 5 out of 10 for me. But thinking about the role design itself, this is going to be tough because we don't know a ton about the responsibilities. But thinking about the role design, how would you rate this out of 10? And, we're missing a lot of information, but do you think that this is sustainable? Do you think that it makes a lot of sense as written, what the person's actually going to be doing? Do you have any kind of comments or thoughts about that?
Yeah, like I said, it was a little bit confusing because initially I was thinking, well, why aren't they just working with an existing security company and contracting them out to do this job? So I thought that was strange. I don't quite understand why it's being done the way it's done. And sustainable. It's a short-term gig. I think so. Could it be paid higher to ensure that sustainability? Sure, but there's not enough information for me to feel confident like rating it anything higher than like a 3, because I just don't know what I don't know. Like it was mentioned in the chat, you would think that they have all of this stuff kind of set up already and they need someone to just kind of wrap their arms around it. Maybe, but we don't know. So for me, it's a pretty low rating of about a 3.
Yeah, I don't think I can even rate this. I think for me, it's a can't rate, because it doesn't give you enough about the responsibilities. Like they say, this is what we require of your background for you to get through the gate. They say you've got to have that bachelor's degree. You've got to have a decade of experience in, there's 5 or 6 different public safety and preparedness fields that they kind of list off. And they say, well, you've got to have worked in multi-day tournaments before at some point. They say all that, but none of that actually communicates what the responsibilities of the job are. So you have to guess. You have to guess. You have to say, oh, I'm going to be overseeing security for non-competition venues. What's that mean? Don't know. Do you have a team? Don't know. No clue. What's the reporting structure? Don't know. No clue. Ultimately, where does the buck stop? Don't know. Is there someone above you who is coordinating security for the region? Don't know. Are you going to be interfacing or reporting to the person who's in charge of security for the competition venues? Don't know. None of these details are in the job description, and that's kind of stuff that you need to figure out if a role, the way it's designed or thought through, kind of conceptualized, is going to be logical, sustainable, whatever. We have none of that. The only thing that kind of saves this from that perspective in my mind is the fact that it's 3 weeks and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. The fact that these folks had to post this job ad at all really shocks me. Why they chose to post this publicly, I'm a little bit at a loss for, because you think that they could have very easily gone to the public safety and preparedness community in the Boston area and just kind of through like professional networks circulated and said, hey, we're looking for someone to lead security during this football tournament. Anybody who's interested, like, send us an email, let's talk. Right? Like it seems like it's going to be a big time waster for them to have put this out publicly and have to screen those.
But it could be, though, it could be that they do have someone in mind and they're just trying to make sure that it seems as though they're doing a very like equitable hiring process. And that's why it's
Maybe.
so vague, because they're like, we don't give a shit. We're not going to hire anyone anyway. We already got our person. We just need to put it out there to make it look as though we did the process. Like who
Maybe.
knows? So many unknowns. And yeah, like what you were saying about how they're like, we don't know. An argument could be made that that's information that you can get out of the interview. But again, going back to how, as a hiring manager, do you want to run your interview process? Do you want to spend the whole time explaining something to a candidate that you could have just written out in a job description? Like that's not a really smart use of time, your time or theirs. So yeah, absolutely. I take it back. I don't give it a 3. I give it a can't rate. I can't rate it either, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's such a mystery, and this is why it never gets old, because every single job posting tells a story, and you really take your time, read through it, focus on what's not being said just as much as what is being said, and you'll start to paint a pretty interesting picture.
Even the hiring manager thing, right? Like who's to say that there is one single person that you would be able to ask all these questions to? Because again, if this is an organizing committee, that would suggest that there is some kind of committee-based interviewing process. So you're not wasting the time of one person. You're potentially wasting the time of like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people. It's mind-boggling. It seems ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not asking for novel with job postings, although like the more we do this show, the more I think about maybe that's not such a bad thing. Like there's an episode way back where Paul and I kind of co-designed a real job posting for the company that I work at. And it ended up being like a slide deck. There was a lot of information there, and we tried to be as transparent as possible. And it worked out really, really well. The feedback was overwhelmingly possible. Not everyone's going to take the time to read everything, but how you advertise for jobs and kind of the format that you put out there is also going to help you attract the right candidates. And so, yeah, sometimes it's worth putting a little bit of extra time and effort and sharing maybe more details than you think necessary to give someone a really good idea of what it is that they're going to be doing in the organization. So, and again, another argument could be made, well, things change so quickly here. That's fine too, but then that's another tell of what your organization is like. Things changing quickly might work for some people, it might not work for others, but yeah, make sure that you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, well, 5s for both Jen and I on the job ad itself, and cannot rate on the role design. I think that we can consider this job ad roasted. That has been another episode. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Roast the Post, the story behind the bullet points. If you got something out of today's breakdown, whether it helped you decode a job posting, rethink how you write one, or just confirm that you're not imagining the chaos out there, make sure you mash that subscribe button and share this with your friends. And if you've got a job posting you want us to roast, the good, the bad, or the please help us understand what this even is, send it our way. We love listener submissions. Hit up the link in the show notes for more. Thanks for hanging out with us. See you next time.